Enter Shanks and his crew, the first pirates to shape Luffy's destiny. Shanks wouldn't just be Luffy's idol, he'd become a mentor in ways that run even deeper. In this timeline, Shanks wouldn't only inspire Luffy to dream big, but also teach him how to fight and navigate a dangerous world without sight. Picture a montage of Shanks guiding Luffy through exercises designed to sharpen his other senses, standing blindfolded on a moving ship, listening for the faint creak of a loose plank, or sparring wit. Think of a world where Monkey D. Luffy, the fearless future pirate king, couldn't see the ocean he dreamed of conquering, or the skies above the Grand Line. What if Luffy was blind from the very beginning, relying on instinct, haki, and the bonds with his crew to navigate a world filled with danger and adventure? Could his blindness, instead of being a limitation, make him even more unstoppable, turning him into the ultimate symbol of freedom and resilience? What kind of pirate king would Luffy become if he could only see with his heart? In this alternate version of One Piece, Luffy's blindness becomes a defining characteristic from the moment we meet him. Imagine a young Luffy navigating the dusty streets of Fuchsia Village with boundless energy, laughing as he bumps into barrels, trees, or even people. His disability would be apparent, but never treated as a limitation, not by Luffy himself, nor by the villagers who adore him. His blindness might even enhance his character's charm, making his optimism and adventurous spirit even more inspiring. Unlike many depictions of blindness, Luffy's story doesn't focus on his struggles. Instead, it would highlight his resilience and resourcefulness. Luffy wouldn't dwell on what he couldn't do. He'd focus on what he could do, and with the creativity and tenacity we know and love, he'd find ways to compensate for his lack of sight. Over time, Luffy would develop an uncanny ability to sense the world around him, relying on heightened hearing, touch, and intuition. These traits would not only help him navigate his environment, but also form the foundation for his future mastery of observation, haki. Wooden swords as Shanks encourages him to feel his opponent's movements. The moment Shanks sacrifices his arm to save Luffy would take on even greater significance in this version of the story. It wouldn't just be about protecting a reckless boy, it would symbolize Shanks' belief in Luffy's unique way of experiencing the world. In losing his arm, Shanks would be making a profound statement. Luffy, blind or not, has the potential to become the greatest pirate the world has ever seen. As Luffy eats the gum-gum fruit and begins dreaming of finding the One Piece, his blindness becomes less of a hurdle and more of a tool that shapes his journey. His ability to trust his instincts and sense danger, honed since childhood, would make him an unpredictable and formidable fighter. By the time he sets out to sea, Luffy's heightened perception and determination would make him unstoppable, blindness or not. The bond between Luffy and Shanks would be stronger than in the original timeline. Shanks wouldn't just leave Luffy with a straw hat and a promise, he'd leave him with the skills and confidence to embrace his unique perspective on the world. And with this, Luffy's journey to become the Pirate King begins. Not just as a bold adventurer, but as someone who's learned to see the world in a way no one else can. Luffy's blindness would reshape the dynamics of the Straw Hat Pirates, creating new depths of connection between him and his crew. Each member would bring their strengths not just to the ship, but to Luffy's life, helping him experience the world in ways that only they could provide. Their bonds would become the emotional core of this story, proving that Luffy's strength isn't just his own but a shared force, cultivated through friendship and trust. Zoro's loyalty to Luffy would deepen in this timeline, as he becomes not just a first mate but Luffy's eyes in combat. During battles, Zoro might call out sharp directions, 2 o'clock, Captain, sword incoming, which Luffy, relying on intuition and heightened senses, would use to dodge and strike with precision. Over time, as Luffy's observation haki surpasses even Zoro's guidance, their bond evolves into mutual respect, with Zoro marveling at Luffy's instinctive brilliance, and Luffy trusting Zoro as his steadfast protector and friend. Nami's role as a navigator would also take on greater meaning. She wouldn't just chart courses and read maps. She'd be Luffy's guide through the uncharted waters of the Grand Line. Imagine Nami vividly describing the skies above them, the changing hues of the sea, or the towering waves of a storm. For Luffy, who can't see these things, Nami's words would paint a world as vivid and colorful as the one we see. Their partnership would be built on trust. Luffy relies on Nami's keen instincts and knowledge, and Nami relies on Luffy's unshakable optimism to push through even the toughest challenges. Usopp, the crew's sniper and storyteller, would become an even more vital presence in Luffy's life. For a blind Luffy, stories would hold unparalleled value. Usopp's tall tales filled with exaggerated heroes and impossible adventures would captivate Luffy's imagination and keep his spirits high during long stretches at sea. More than that, Usopp would become the one who brings the world to life for Luffy, embellishing every encounter and every battle with colorful details that make their adventures even more epic in Luffy's mind. Robin, the enigmatic archaeologist, would provide an intellectual connection to Luffy. As she pieces together the secrets of the Void Century and uncovers ancient truths, she might stumble upon information that ties Luffy's blindness to a greater destiny. Perhaps his condition is linked to an ancient curse, or maybe it's a manifestation of his connection to the sun god Nika. Luffy, in turn, would trust Robin to explore these mysteries, even if he doesn't fully grasp their implications. Their bond would highlight Luffy's ability to see the bigger picture, even without sight. Every member of the crew contributes to Luffy's journey in unique ways, creating a dynamic that's not just about camaraderie, but about understanding and supporting one another. Luffy's blindness would challenge them all to grow, to think differently, and to see the world through his perspective. A perspective that's not limited by sight, but enriched by heart and intuition. Together, they'd prove that being the Pirate King isn't about what you can see. It's about what you believe, what you fight for, and the bonds you create along the way. Combat would be where a blind Luffy truly shines. Not as a handicap, but as a unique strength. In the original One Piece timeline, Luffy's fighting style is already unconventional. He's a rubber man who uses his elasticity and unpredictability to gain the upper hand in battles. As a blind fighter, his adaptability would evolve to a level no one else could match. Sight, after all, is not the only way to perceive the world. For Luffy, it would be all about feeling his surroundings, reading his opponent's intent, and using his heightened senses to overcome challenges. From the very start, Luffy's combat instincts would be sharper than most. While others rely on their eyes to track movement, Luffy would depend on vibrations, sounds, and even shifts in the air to predict attacks. This sensory awareness would give him an edge that most fighters wouldn't anticipate. Imagine a young Luffy sparring with Ace and Sabo in the forests of Dawn Island, dodging their punches and countering with his wild laughing, "You guys are so predictable." His brothers, baffled, would chalk it up to his rubber powers, but in reality, it would be the birth of his natural observation haki. Observation haki, which typically takes years of training to master, would come naturally to Luffy. His blindness would have forced him to develop an intuitive sixth sense long before he even set sail. By the time he faces his first real opponents, like Buggy or Arlong, Luffy would already be using haki unconsciously, sensing their presence and movements with uncanny precision. His battles would be less about reacting to what he sees and more about feeling the intent of his enemies, making him an unpredictable and nearly untouchable fighter. Luffy's blindness would also make him a master of using his environment. He'd turn obstacles into opportunities using walls, ceilings, and even his opponent's weapons against them. For instance, in a fight against Crocodile, instead of relying solely on brute force, Luffy might use his heightened senses to detect the subtle shifts in Crocodile's sand movements, dodging attacks and landing blows in ways that even a sighted fighter couldn't. His gear transformations would be even more awe-inspiring. Gear Second, with its speed and fluidity, would make Luffy seem like a blur, a ghostly presence on the battlefield that enemies couldn't touch. His heightened senses would allow him to anticipate attacks and strike before his opponents even realized he'd moved. Gear Fourth, with its raw power and elasticity, would become an extension of his instincts, creating a fighting style that's both chaotic and devastating. Opponents would struggle to keep up with someone who doesn't rely on traditional sight and reaction, but instead operates on pure instinct and willpower. Every battle Luffy fights would highlight his ability to turn what others see as a weakness into an incredible strength. His blindness would force him to approach combat from a unique angle, and in doing so, he'd constantly surprise his enemies and his allies with just how powerful and resourceful he truly is. The mystery of the monkey family lineage has intrigued fans for years. In this alternate timeline, Luffy's blindness could serve as a key to understanding his ancestry and its deep connection to the world's hidden history. Eiichiro Oda has peppered One Piece with hints about Luffy's lineage, and his blindness could be a clue to a much larger puzzle. A link that stretches back to the Void Century and the enigmatic sun god Nika. The Skypiea arc, often dismissed as a side story, could hold the answers. The Shandians, an ancient tribe with ties to the sun god, revered a figure who brought light and liberation to the oppressed. Luffy's actions throughout the series often echo the qualities of this sun god, and his blindness could be a physical manifestation of this connection. In a world where light and freedom are intertwined, what could be more symbolic than a blind man destined to bring true illumination? The story of Kalgara and Noland in Skypiea offers intriguing parallels to Luffy's journey. Kalgara's unwavering loyalty to his people and his willingness to fight for their freedom mirrors Luffy's stubbornness and determination. Kalgara's bond with Noland, a man who sought to heal the Shandians and preserve their legacy, could be seen as a precursor to the bond Luffy forms with his crew. A partnership built on trust, respect, and a shared vision of a better world. The Skypiea arc's Drums of Liberation would hold profound meaning for a blind Luffy, whose heightened senses make him uniquely attuned to their rhythm, a tangible connection to the sun god. Luffy's blindness could stem from an ancient Shandian curse or lineage, tying him to their resilience and fight for freedom. By the time Luffy uncovers the Void Century's truth at Laugh Tale, his blindness would transcend mystery, symbolizing his destiny to bring light to a dark, oppressive world. Not through sight, but through his unwavering will, actions, and unshakable belief in freedom, cementing his place as a liberator and the ultimate pirate king in the story's grand legacy. Luffy's blindness would redefine the themes of One Piece, shifting the story's focus to perception and perspective in profound ways. At its core, One Piece is a tale of freedom, adventure, and the pursuit of dreams. But with a blind Luffy, it would also explore deeper questions about strength, capability, and liberation. What does it truly mean to be free? What does it mean to see the world? These questions would echo through every step of Luffy's journey. In this alternate timeline, the world of One Piece would still be vibrant and colorful, but Luffy's perspective would add a layer of richness and complexity. For him, the Grand Line wouldn't be defined by what it looked like, but by what it felt like. The way the ocean breeze carried the scent of a distant island, the rhythm of the waves against the going merry, or the sound of seagulls signaling land. Every island they visit, every adventure they embark on, would be experienced through his heightened senses, giving readers and viewers a fresh way to engage with the world. This shift in perspective would resonate through Luffy's interactions with others. Where many see chaos and division, Luffy would perceive connections and unity. He wouldn't judge people by appearances, but by their actions and intentions. It's easy to imagine moments where Luffy instinctively trusts someone everyone else doubts, sensing their sincerity in a way that others can't. Conversely, he might call out a seemingly trustworthy figure, having seen the truth of their deceit through their tone or hesitation. Luffy's blindness would also impact how he challenges the world's oppressive systems. The tyrants he faces, whether they're warlords, corrupt marines, or celestial dragons, often rely on symbols of power and fear to maintain control. But Luffy, who isn't swayed by appearances, would cut through their facades with ease. To him, a celestial dragon's title would mean nothing if their actions didn't earn respect. This perspective would make Luffy a powerful symbol of true freedom, a pirate king who sees the world for what it is, not what it pretends to be. As Luffy inches closer to Laugh Tale and the truth of the Void Century, his blindness would take on an even deeper symbolic meaning. Perhaps the One Piece treasure isn't something that can be seen with the eyes, but something that must be felt with the heart. The idea that the ultimate treasure is intangible, freedom, understanding, or unity, fits perfectly with the themes of One Piece. For Luffy, blind from the start, this revelation would be a validation of his entire journey. He didn't need to see the treasure to know its value. He understood it in a way no one else could. Through Luffy's lens, One Piece would become a story not just about changing the world, but about changing how the world is perceived. It's a world where freedom isn't defined by sight, but by perspective, and where true strength comes from understanding, compassion, and the courage to trust in others. By the time Luffy reaches the end of his journey, his blindness will no longer be a focal point. It wouldn't define him. It would simply be a part of who he is. The world would come to know Luffy not as a blind man, but as a beacon of hope. a liberator who saw more clearly than anyone else what the world needed. His story, marked by resilience, determination, and an unshakable belief in his friends, would inspire countless others to chase their dreams and challenge the systems that hold them back. Imagine the moment Luffy and his crew stand on Laugh Tale, the culmination of their years-long adventure. The treasure, the One Piece, lies before them. But instead of gold or jewels, what if the treasure was something intangible? A profound truth about the world's history and its people. This truth, hidden for centuries, could reveal the horrors of the Void Century, the reasons behind the world government's tyranny, and the sacrifices made by those who sought freedom. For Luffy, blind from birth, this revelation would carry an even deeper weight. Unlike others who might have been dazzled or distracted by the treasure's physical form, Luffy would understand its essence without hesitation. His journey wasn't about what he could see, it was about what he could feel: freedom, unity, and the bonds he shared with his crew. The One Piece in this version of the story wouldn't be something to possess, but something to share. A truth that could unite the world and shatter the chains of oppression. This ending would also serve as a poignant commentary on Luffy's character. Throughout his journey, Luffy has proven time and again that he doesn't care about appearances or titles. Whether it's a celestial dragon, a warlord, or a rival pirate, he judges people by their actions, not their status. The One Piece in its truest form would align perfectly with this philosophy. It wouldn't be about material wealth, but about the legacy of those who fought for freedom and the hope they left behind. In this timeline, Luffy's blindness would turn his journey into an even more profound exploration of human potential. It would highlight the idea that true vision isn't about what you see, but about what you believe and fight for. Through his actions, Luffy would redefine what it means to be strong, capable, and free, inspiring not just his crew, but the entire world. And as the Straw Hats sail away from Laugh Tale, Luffy would stand at the helm, the wind in his hair, laughing with his crew. He wouldn't need to see the horizon to know that their journey was far from over. The Pirate King's reign wouldn't be about ruling or conquering. It would be about leading the world toward a brighter, freer future. In the end, Luffy's blindness wouldn't be a limitation. It would be his greatest strength, a testament to his ability to see the heart of the world more clearly than anyone else ever could. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.